Hey everyone, it's Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Sher, we're on a series talking about desire. And last week you brought a question to our listeners. So go back and listen to that question. We won't repeat that question today. We have a new question. But you brought a question that led us into really a discussion in our own experiences. And we like to share our journeys and our experiences to hopefully normalize to some degree and to help people not feel alone that these are real struggles and battles and victories. And so today you are going to just bring another question that we're going to be discussing next weekend, some of this in a retreat that we're going on with a group of women. And so this is one way that we wanted to not only prepare, but we just believe in this so much that we wanted to make some episodes out of it, like the topic of being a wild woman of desire.
Yeah, which we've been talking about on the podcast since the beginning of the year, kind of towards the end of 2024. We started talking about this aspect of being wild women of desire. And I love your comment about the healing journey is ongoing. And I listened to a podcast last week where the host, who is a long time person in this field of the healing work of story work and trauma, and this person said, in 2025, I have some things I'm going to focus on in my own healing.
Mhm.
And that felt powerful to me because I am a person of the ongoing journey. I
Yes.
suspect I don't know. I suspect I'll be processing things lifelong, and I embrace that. I actually welcome that this is real.
And it's so authentic when we consider that we're growing in every way as we age in some degree. And being able to embrace that this is an ongoing journey without shame, because I think, and I'm going to say this is probably true for you, but you can give me pushback on it. When you've been in an environment or systems where there's a sense that we need you to arrive,
Mm.
the pressure of that message will cause you to hide, pretend, and perform.
Well, because when we're in a context of that kind of a pressure, we are in a context of judgment, not love.
And control.
And on the last episode, we talked about how you and I, but you shared a little story about when somebody gave you words of welcome and love, even if you messed up really big.
Mm-hmm.
That's the opposite of this demand to get it together, kind of like get your shit together, stop acting stupid, and do the right thing. Well, sometimes, as hard as we try and as much as we hope, it can be very difficult to actually do that. And
Yeah, and I think every single person, if they were able to look at that thing, because we all have a thing. Now, some people's things look very respectable. It could
mm,
be being a workaholic.
yeah.
So there's some degree that that's not going to get challenged as much. But if everybody could truly find safety and security to look at those things that bring some level of what's wrong with me or shame, and to be able to move towards that with somebody else in kindness, it is the only way that we can begin to move away from those things.
Mm,
um,
yeah.
Sincerely, that's the word, sincerely, not to hide, pretend, and perform.
Yeah. And we are wild women of desire who desire to find healing in those areas, and we're actively doing the work. And part of that work has been coming into this awareness that we are wild women of desire, and we are reconnecting with some lost parts of ourselves. And so today we're going to bring another question, and this is the question that we're going to talk about for today. Does it feel vulnerable for you to hope that your desires will be realized? What does that vulnerability feel like to you?
Mhm.
Does it feel vulnerable to hope that your desires will be realized?
Mhm. Does it feel vulnerable to hope, and what does that feel like? So, vulnerability in my body feels like a setup.
Mm.
And unfortunately, it feels like a setup to be disappointed, to fail, to be too much. Like, there's a lot of complexity around really slowing down and, like, what does that feel like in your body? So for me, at the extreme of my exile, my youngest, it's the fear of abandonment.
Mm.
So when I am the most vulnerable, I am in the fear of abandonment. So
Mm.
to be able to show up and ask for what I need and desire in the depths of what that little girl experienced
Mm.
can be really hard because I'm a grown ass woman, right?
Mm.
And I'm showing up with other women feeling 6 years old.
Mm. Wow, I hear you.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's just pause there for a minute. I want to come back. I want to go back and have you say some of that again because it feels so important.
Mhm.
And I love your awareness that for you, when you recognize that you have a big desire, then you begin to feel vulnerable. You have these sensations in your body of something doesn't feel safe, and the thing that you have identified is that often what is happening, what your brain is triggering are the memories of and the feelings of being abandoned.
Mhm.
And and you have said this word before, Candace, to your little girl, that feels fatal.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I want to stay here, but I want to say one thing here. So for you to recognize your desires and that you are desiring something big can immediately put you into a space of feeling a sense of fatality.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Mhm. And this has been the work, of what's true for me in those moments. I wished I could say I have arrived,
Mm,
but I noticed. So I'll just be very honest. This happened to me a little over a week ago. And so that triggering and like the franticness that I was feeling on the inside, I immediately reached out to let people know I'm here again. And I hadn't been there to that degree for a very long time.
yeah,
I was traveling, and there was something about kind of being away from my people, if you will,
yeah.
that triggered that. And I mean the outpouring of lavish goodness and love that came after me. I got out of that quicker than I ever have
Mm,
without hurting myself or someone else.
yeah. Wow. Just feels like such a significant thing that you have awareness of.
Mhm.
That this place of desire has in the past often led you to deep feelings of abandonment and the sense of can I survive this?
Mhm.
So of course, as you said last episode, of course you figured out a way to be happy enough with breadcrumbs, because to desire the really big things is
Mhm.
way too unsafe.
Yeah, and can we name the really big things? Because this is such a history in our podcast of Kurt Thompson's 4 S's.
Yeah.
Our biggest desires center around being seen,
Mm.
being soothed, feeling safe, and feeling secure.
Yeah.
And that we believe that's actually true for everybody, whether they can name it that or not.
And it might look like what I'm really desiring is this particular kind of relationship, or what I'm really desiring is this amount of money in my bank account, but it always comes back to what I'm really desiring is being seen, soothed, safe, and secure. And yeah, I love that you brought that up. That just feels like there's a simplicity there that if we can keep coming back to that, that's our deepest longing. So that when we're desiring something and we begin to notice, like, ooh, I'm feeling dysregulated, or I feel the minute I give way to this desire, fear sets in, or
Mhm.
something that causes me then to sabotage. But if we can put our finger on what I'm really longing for, is for somebody to move in close and say, I see you. I see your pain. I see your struggle, whatever.
Yeah, so that's the feast. And if we don't reach out to our resources, inner and outer, because we develop even our inner resources, that sometimes we can really hold that and work through it ourselves. But if we don't do that, what we do is so I wrote about this a long time ago, the difference between peace and relief. Okay. So real peace comes through real good, healthy resources.
Mm,
But if we're not slowing down and able to do that, or will do that for whatever reason, we will turn to temporary relief
yeah.
in some way,
Yeah.
whether that's complete dissociation or, even literally just going to sleep or, numbing out in some way with a
Mhm.
substance.
Yeah. Because if we have to take care of our own dysregulation, our resources are limited. And
Yeah.
numbing out is usually the only thing that we even know.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Cher, would you mind reading that question again? Because I want our listeners to hear what this is like for you.
Does it feel vulnerable for you to hope that your desires will be realized? What does that vulnerability feel like to you?
Mhm.
And I I have had this lifelong sense of hope that is just out there. Like, I have hoped for a lot of big things in my life. But then I have this aspect of hope and desire that, and I think it is as it gets closer to the 4 S's that we're talking about here. And that does feel very vulnerable for me. And it was interesting. I think I would have had a very hard time answering this. I think I would have said disappointment. I think I would have said the biggest thing that I feel when I move toward the deeper desires of my body, soul, and spirit is this big, huge fear of disappointment. I will be disappointed, and therefore I'm not even going to hope. But as we met with our group of sisters couple of weeks ago, and we talked about some of these aspects of desire, I noticed through our hour long conversation, I noticed myself getting quieter and quieter and more distressed. And at the end of our time together, as we were just kind of giving a 2 or 3 word, what are you feeling as we end our time together? I wasn't even sure what I was feeling. And somebody else said, I think I feel heartbreak. And boom, for me, that was what I was really feeling. And I think that for me, often when I get closer to the things that I am desiring, this has been true for me. I think I feel this sense of this is too risky. I can't afford to reach out and hope that goodness will be coming,
Mhm.
because if it doesn't, my heart will be broken again, and I don't know if I have the capacity for any more heartbreak.
Mhm.
So I think for me, that awareness just feels so huge because there's a bind in that belief and experience. I've experienced it. It's a true, but the
Yeah, well,
bind,
yeah, and there's a risk.
yeah, huge, huge
Yeah.
risk. I'm not going to desire the really big things. I'm not going to allow myself because I can't bear the risk of my heart being broken again.
Do you feel okay with sharing how you handled that space?
Being very close to what's going on in my body. We've talked about this so many times, but recognizing the sensations in my body has been life-changing. So now I know when I begin to tremble, that is a moment for me to slow down and tune in and find out what is going on here. And so for me to recognize this aspect of heartbreak
Mhm.
and then be able to come in closer, like, why am I so what is that about heartbreak? Like, what is my fear there? Or what am I afraid is going to happen? And for me to slow down, get in touch with what's going on in my body, get in touch with my story, which I know my story pretty well now. So when I see this happening, I can tune in to, oh yeah, here's where there's been some real pain in my past in this particular area. And then be there with that, hold it with compassion, not judgment, not shame. Though I mean, if shame comes, then I can face that and move that. But holding my story, my little girl, my heart with compassion in that moment, and then being able to take a step, take a little step. This again, I will say, this is what is. I am so focused on rewiring my brain. Like this is a front burner thing for me. I want the new neural networks
Yeah.
so that when I get triggered in those spaces, my brain has the wherewithal to keep my prefrontal cortex online.
Yeah. And Cher, I want to just stop you for a minute. This this is something that we hear about a lot. Rewire your brain. You can rewire. But I want to say you are very articulate about how that's done. Like this is one way we can do this.
Yeah.
And your desire for that to happen. And I will say, even your growing desire, I've seen that just really come alive in this the whole time, but especially in this last year.
Yeah.
And what is it like to notice, oh, I think there's some new neural networks happening here?
Yeah. I see it happening when I go into spaces and I get close to dysregulation. In the past, it would have taken me out, but now I get closer to dysregulate, or I get a little dysregulated. I go on the window of tolerance. We've talked about that in the past, but I get a little bit out there. And then I'm able to recognize what's going on and bring myself back to this place where I'm in the present moment and I can make my way through. And often that is with help, where I will reach out and say, well, I need to talk through something. Will you be with me? Or I need some feedback, or I need some care. And this is, yeah, I'm super passionate about it because it feels like this is the way that we are able to get unstuck and move through life, move into life, through life, in our relationships in a different way.
Yes, and it's the way of joy.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here thinking about all the finances that I have poured into different things, education, whatever, house stuff. Like, I could name a lot of things, but I'm listening to you thinking at the end of the day, the healing of our childhood trauma and the investments that we make into that is what allows us to experience joy in this ever changing, sometimes scary world.
Yeah.
Like, can we weep with those who weep, but are we able to have joy with those who have joy? And I will say the healing of childhood trauma, the rewiring of our neural pathways is what allows us to not fake it until we make it.
Yeah.
We can experience real, overflowing, abundant life and joy 24/7. No, because I'm just going to say that almost feels yucky to me that I would not allow myself
to be human.
To be human.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's normalize that we are created to hold sorrow and joy.
Yeah. And that combination is beauty in the human heart. Yeah.
It is. Okay. I'm really loving these discussions.
Me too.
And we are going to come back and do another one on desire, maybe with a new question. I don't know what you have up your sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a wonderful conversation today with you. And I just share, I am so grateful for you. I am honored to be your friend, to be your colleague, to heal together, to get to love you, and to get to experience your lavish love. I want to thank you.
I receive that, and I will just say, and right back at you, friend. 100%.
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too, Kandace. Love you so much.
Love you too.